Hey, y'all. What's going on? It's the Brown Girl, creator, the Brown Girl Experience. And this right here is my new podcast called Miseducation of a Brown Girl. Child, this podcast is all about Black womanhood and the shit that we inherited. And this right here, this is going to be my journey and maybe yours of us unlearning the shit that has been holding us hostage for years. But we're not just going to unlearn shit. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and remix it and keep the things that just make us dope as fuck. And so clearly, let's clear the room right now. As you can probably already see, this ain't your typical women's empowerment kind of show. No, girl, no. It's the Brown Girl. All right. Think of this more like a Black woman's empowerment in its rawest state. Okay, so hear me out. Because I'll be honest with you, over here, we're breaking the rules. Yeah, I'm breaking every single solitary rule that women's empowerment gave us. Like over here, we are going to celebrate the messiness of our stories and experience with as much energy as we honor the excellence. Over here, this is a space where we can cuss, we can cry, we can joke, we can roll our eyes, shake our asses, toss your ass back in a circle if you want to. And we're going to do our healing our way. Yeah, because over here, the experience over here, this is a dope experience because it's rooted in hip hop, but it's also loved on by R&B because I am always and forever will be a Gen X baddie who was raised on both Little Kim and our good sis Mary J. Blige. Now, now that you know what to expect from the show, let me tell you a little bit about me. Okay. Because before we get in this episode, I think it's real important that you know who I am and where I'm coming from. Because I'll be honest with you, right now, I'm out here fresh out the box in these streets post therapy. Child, I'm still trying to figure out if the world still triggers me the way that it did in 2020, because back in 2020, yeah, I took a sabbatical from being outside to do a little bit of healing, a lot of healing. Yeah, for 4.5 years, almost 5 years of healing. Yeah. hmm Um, so now I'm in this new season seeing if therapy worked. Yeah, honestly, I'm testing it out. Did therapy work, or do I need to go crawling back to the good sis that gave me the tools that I needed to trust myself? Because if it didn't work, why am I here? And so, and honestly, if I'm calling a thing, we don't have enough neurospicy, inappropriate Gen X baddies out here on Jill Scott's internet. And child, that's why I decided, why not me? I don't have a filter. I have no shame whatsoever because if it pops in my head, it's going to come out of my mouth in any form, especially if I think it's going to give another Black woman permission that she needs in order to start her journey of being the dopest version of herself. I'm going to say it. Yeah, I'm gonna say it each and every time, even if I gotta relive that one time or twice that I broke into my ex's apartment because he hung up on me. I mean, it's part of my story. I ain't ashamed that it happened. I'm just saying, at this big age, it ain't gonna happen again. However, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's who I am. So let's get into what this episode is about. This episode is all about how I decided that I was going to jump into what I like to call affectionately my delusional era. hmm Honestly, a few years ago, I heard my homegirl Steph from Aspire to Hire, shameless plug for my good sis. She said something that stuck with me in such a way that I have been living by it ever since. She said, "My scholarship is hip hop." Do you hear me? Let's say it again for the people in the back. She said, "My scholarship is hip hop." And that was the first time that I started looking at hip hop differently. I didn't start looking at it only as music or a vibe or the soundtrack to my life, but I started looking at it as a brilliant teacher. hmm And today, y'all, listen, today, hip hop is my favorite teacher. We already told y'all R&B is that close second because deep down in my core, I'm still and forever will be a lover girl. I am. And recently I was just going around scrolling Sade's internet and I ran into Professor J. Cole. Listen, when I tell you my man's was dropping some gems, his clip gave me my first aha moment for 2026 because he asked a question that I had never, ever, ever given myself permission to answer. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think the women before me had ever given themselves permission to answer this question because he asked, Who do you see yourself as? Child, first of all, sir, mind your business. Okay. Mind your business. And second of all, I'm listening. Yeah, I'm all ears, locked in. But when he said something next that made me sit my tail right down, because he said how we envision ourselves and our lives, you know, that's when shit got real. Because he said to clarify how we define ourselves and define our vision for our lives in its highest possible way that we can see it. Now I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was along those lines. But he was talking about being specific. He says, see yourself as high as you can. And then he said something that made me lock completely in. He said, be delusional. Girl, it was music to my ears. He said, be delusional. Be so bold with your vision. Be so bold that your mind starts thinking that it's possible. And then once you define it, you got to believe that shit. And I was like, ooh, baby. Once I define it, I have to believe it. And whatever you do, you must protect that shit. I never, ever, ever got the blueprint handed to me like that. Now, listen, when I tell you his quote was like a permission slip for me, and to do something that no one has ever, ever encouraged me to do before. He encouraged me to be delusional about the vision that I have for my own life, my life. And I'm like, is that a challenge? Is that something I should be doing? How do I go about it? And I had to start writing things down, like, not to be realistic with it, not to be practical with it, not to be safe with it, but to be delusional with it. That right there was the cheat code. That right there was the sauce that I needed to look at myself a little differently. And because I've never been in this season before, this particular season that I'm walking this earth in, I figure, why not? Why not me trying being delusional now? Who is it going to hurt? I've never done it before. And before shit, I wouldn't even trust myself enough to be delusional with my life. And the crazy part is, when I just decided I was going to jump in with both feet, no plan, the first thing that I decided that I was going to be delusional in this season with, the very first thing that I was going to apply that logic to, was a goal. Do y'all see my face? It was a goal. I chose a form of productivity. Yeah. I immediately checked myself, because the professor did not ask me to envision a goal. He said my life. And then he said to be delusional about it. So why did I go so small? And why did the first thing that I decided that I was going to apply my delusion for, was going to be productive instead of expansive, and that's when it hit me. As Black women, our value is often tied to how much we can produce. It's rarely tied to our joy, our pleasure, is rarely tied to the fullness of our lives. It's rarely tied to our purpose. It's always to how much we can give, how much we can do, how much we can carry. That's what our value has been tied to, for so many years. When I say that, I'm talking about the women before me. I'm talking about the women that are walking with me. And listen, if we're really being transparent and we're really being honest, that's still applying to the young brown girls that's walking after me. And that is what made me realize that I need to ask myself another question. Why did I go so small? Yeah. Why didn't I consider my full life? And that's when I realized something. And to be honest with you, look, to be honest with you, that shit had me shook. Okay. It shook because I never considered my life as a whole experience. Like, I'll be honest with you, I've always looked at my life in silos. I think about work and the life that I live as a working woman. I think about my family, the role that I play in my family. I'm the responsible one. Sometimes I'm the funny one. Sometimes I'm the asshole, or even my relationships, my responsibilities. Like, I have them all in little silos, but never completely as a whole. And when I look at it, how I moved in these different silos, I looked at it as if, how all the things that I could do for others, but I never stopped and looked or even imagined my life as a complete experience. Baby, what am I doing here? Like, how can I exist differently in all these different spaces and separate myself? But when I'm supposed to look at myself as a whole, and hearing Cole say that, it made me think about my own life very differently, because my life shouldn't be just about productivity. My life isn't about service, because if I'm really thinking about it, and if I really want to claim something dope for myself, my life is love. It's joy, it's pleasure. My life still has goals. Like, I'm not saying to toss goals to the wayside, but that's not my primary focus. That's not the primary point of my life. But the goals that I have, I want them to be aligned with my purpose. Yeah. And then right now, I have this opportunity to look at my whole life. I have this opportunity to align it with my purpose. And then I get to dream bigger. Bitch, I could. What did y'all hear me? I get to dream bigger, and I get it. Like, what I'm gonna say is gonna sound very weird because I've been cussing. Because I know not everybody's religious, but I am. Okay, that's okay. However you walk is how you walk. But I am somebody who is a believer, and I truly believe that God did not create me to be small. He did not give me a dream. He didn't give me this vision. He didn't give me anything to envision my life full of limitations. He created me to go big, to use my gifts. Like, he wouldn't have given me the gift to gab if I wasn't supposed to use it. Use my talents. He wanted me to experience joy, to experience pleasure, to experience the world, to experience life, to see the world, to experience all the things that he created. Like, that right there is one of the things that I had to start not just saying out loud, but realizing that is part of my experience. And that quote from J. Cole gave me that permission slip to say those things out loud. And I'm just like, yo, this is new. And I'll be honest with you, this realization is exciting. Like, it's exciting right now in this moment, but you know what else it is? It's scary as shit. It is, because, like, one, I've never been here before. I've never thought like this before. So it's changing how I think and how I see things. But it's one of those things is once you see it, once you envision it, once you plant the seed for it, now I'm responsible for this. Like, now I have this vision, and this vision I'm responsible for. Now I'm saying that I'm going to go big. Now I'm saying I'm looking at my life differently. Now I'm saying I want to experience my life differently. Now I'm responsible for doing it. And child, responsibility sometimes ain't something that I want. And sometimes I think the scariest part of envisioning my life as a full experience instead of silos is admitting something that I think rarely most of us are afraid to say, like, or don't even say out loud. And maybe it's like, I don't know if it's all women, but I could definitely say the Black woman I know. Like, I want to say that I want it all. Yeah, not just the career, the business, or the relationships. I want all of it. And I want everything that I can imagine. I want it. I want all of it. And it feels good to say it, like, to say that I want the business, I want the movement. I want an empire that helps Black women reclaim their narrative. And to be honest with you, listen, girl, I don't want to do it for free. I want to get wealthy doing it. I want to get wealthy doing the things that I love. I want to be a global speaker, author. I want to host dope ass retreats across the globe. Those are the things that I want to do. I want to have amazing health and longevity so that I can enjoy the life, so I can enjoy the success that I'm building. I want a husband. Yeah, and I don't just want anybody husband or just any old husband. I want a husband that loves me, adores me, respects me. And I want to be able to have that same vice versa with him. I want a husband that travels the world with me. I want the dog. Okay, I got the dog. Y'all know I got Nakia. I want the home. I want the dream home. I want the land. Girl, I want financial security, and not for nothing. I want to be responsible with that financial security, because right now, in this moment, child, you're good, sis. let's just say money ain't really my ministry. I like to spend it how I make it, which is fast and hard. But I want all of it. I want pleasure beyond belief. I want to experience the world with my friends and my family. And listen, my healing includes and will always include the fact that I want magnificent orgasmic experiences. I want them with my husband or my partners as I get to my husband. I want a partner to experience life with. I want my family to live close by. I'm 12 hours from my family. I want land. Listen, I was telling my brother, I want land so we can have a compound where we all have our own big homes, but we hop on four-wheelers to visit each other. Like, I don't want to be on top of each other. I want a big party house so that when we all get together or family comes in town, they stay there. They don't have to stay with any of us. I want all of it. All of it. And that's just like a quick, brief thing of like, if I could imagine my life as big as possible and then go further, that, that's what I envision. I envision wanting it all. And in saying that out loud in this day and age, especially as a Black woman, it's scary. And it's scary because I know just saying that out loud, it triggers the world. Because when Black women, child, y'all know what I'm about to get into. When Black women say that we want it all, the world immediately starts attacking us for it. They attack our all by any means possible. They're saying that we're being unrealistic. They're saying that we're being delusional. They said that we have to choose. We have to choose. And then they always like to put in their experience or how they view things or whatever, because they say that you can't have it all because something's going to have to suffer. And then my question is, why does something have to suffer? Why can't I have it all? Why do I have to define and live my life by other people's limitations because they haven't been able to admit to themselves that they want it all? And so how dare my Black ass say I want it all? And so that brings me back to Professor Cole, because in theory, it sounds great. But Cole did not tell us to sit around and talk theory. Cole told us to do the work. Okay. And that's what I decided I want to do. That's why this is my season of delusion. I'm going to do the work and I'm going to do something very different for myself. As scary as it is equally as exciting. I'm going to put motion behind this. I'm going to commit to doing something bigger and put motion behind this theory. And for the next, we're saying month to start, but it's probably going to be like more of a 90-day sprint. I'm going to be radically delusional about my life, and I'm going to envision it. I'm going to name it. Like the vision ain't it. I'm going to name the things, and just then, I'm going to define it the biggest way possible. And then I'm going to push that shit just a little bit further. But for me, I'm also going to write it down. Because for me, writing it down, that makes it real, right? Write the vision down as big as I can. And that's when it gets real, child. When I tell you, that's when I start believing it. Because if I can envision it, that means that it's already possible for me to go ahead and achieve it. It's already possible for me to achieve it. And then I'm going to protect the hell out of it. Because I'm going to tell you this. Not everybody wants to see you go big or go home. And so you got to protect that vision. You got to protect what you named. But while I'm protecting it, sis, I'm doing the work, And so for the next, like I said, 30 or so days over here at Miseducation of a Brown Girl World, we going in. We going in. We going to lock in. We going to do something different. I already told y'all, I'm doing the work anyway. But you know what would be dope? You know what would be real dope if we did that shit together. What you say? You want to be delusional with me? Come on, let's be delulu together. I I want you to choose something in your life. Shit, choose all the things in your life. If you want all of it, choose it. I want to encourage Everyone on the sound of my raspy ass voice, I want you to be delusional. I want to know, what are you ready to be delusional about? Because Professor Cole gave us an assignment. hmm He gave us the blueprint already. It's already laid out. Envision it, believe it, protect it, do the work. Now we just got to act on it. And so I'm going to ask you the same question that he asked me. Who do you see yourself as? Y'all, that's all I got for tonight. I am the Brown Girl, created a Brown Girl experience. And I would love, 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 love for you to claim who you are in the comments. And if you like this, if you want to be part of my delusional journey with me, if you want to be this delusional girl too, make sure you like, share, and comment, and share this with any of your dope ass brown girls and everything. We can all be delusional together. I am the Brown Girl. This is the Brown Girl experience, and this is our miseducation of a brown girl. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.